All right, we got a couple people on. It's Matt from Producer School. How you guys doing? And girls, of course. Hopefully we got some lady producers with us today as well. If you're here, be sure to drop me a comment, say hello so I can tell you hello and know who we're working with today. Cheers to everybody. It's the weekend. So we're going to try and get right into it today. We're going to finish up our discussion that we've been having this week on arrangement. And I just had a couple more things that I wanted to go over to finish up our arrangement discussion. Arrangement is probably one of, if not the most important pieces of the puzzle when you're producing. And I'm going to finish it up today. Just again, I kind of discussed earlier the idea of this micro and macro mentality when you're producing, and it all boils down to this: just always try to break up what you're doing into smaller parts, and the more you can focus on those smaller parts, then when you take a step back and listen to the big picture, it's very helpful in my opinion. So I'm gonna get back into this little demo track that we were messing with, and I'm going to basically show you a couple more quick things with arrangement. And what's up, Daniel? Thanks for joining. Also today, you guys, I wanted to start in the music producer community. I'm going to try and do this on Saturdays, I think, from now on, where everybody who's a member of the music producer community, the music producer school community, and it's totally free right now. I'm gonna go on after the live stream today over to Music Producer School community. What's up, DJ Rish? Thanks for joining. I'm going to go over to the community page, and just from there, I'm going to live stream, and I'm going to let you guys post your tracks there, either in like a SoundCloud or a YouTube style link, so I can watch it and listen to it right there on the page. And I'm going to give it a listen and kind of critique it and give you some feedback on what you could maybe do better to improve your track. So that could be everything from mixing, the arrangement, the lyrics, the melodies, the chord progression, the samples that you're using, the whole deal. I'm just going to give you a quick little rundown of, and again, it's just be my opinion, but as we all know, when you work on your track, you're working on it for maybe days or weeks or months, and it's super easy to kind of lose perspective of what you're doing. So I think it's going to be a good place for us to listen to each other's tracks, give some helpful feedback. I'm not going to tolerate any kind of like negativity or anything there, but we'll give some helpful feedback like, hey, I can't really hear the vocal that well, or maybe the vocal is too loud, or stuff like that. The track's not hitting as hard as it could be. So we're gonna do that over there in the Music Producer School community. So make sure that you join me over there. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna post the link to that page. If you're not already a member over there, be sure that you go and join that, because I think everybody's going to get a lot of value out of that. So y'all give me 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and post that in the comments in just a minute here when I get the Facebook link up so I can put it in the comments. So if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch or something like that, just be sure to hit up the Facebook page, and you'll be able to see this live stream there. I'm going to put the link to the community in the comments. So I would say probably right around 1 p.m. today, right after I get done with this lesson, I'm going to go head over there. And if you guys want me to listen to your tracks over there, that's the place to do it, because I've been getting a ton of messages from people asking me to listen to their track or, help them out with their track. And I just think it's going to be a lot more helpful if we can all do it together, so everybody can get the feedback at the same time. And I think that's just going to be a lot more helpful. So I'm going to put the link in there right now, and we'll go ahead and get started with our lesson for today, which is going to be arrangement. So I would say probably we don't need to hear ourselves in the matrix here again. Let me put this comment in right quick. And yeah, once again, folks, if you're just joining us, my name is Matt from Music Producer School. We're doing free lessons on Facebook right now. I just put the comment in there for the link to the Music Producer School community. Make sure you join because I'm going to be listening to your tracks right after we get done with this live stream. So let's get back into it. Let's go over to, I was working in Ableton yesterday. And again, I work in Ableton a lot just because I'm very quick in it. But all of this stuff applies whether you're in FL Studio, Logic, Presonus, Reaper, Cubase, all the different DAWs, this stuff all applies. So what I'm going to do today is just give you a couple more pointers on arrangement, and I'm going to finish up this little kind of demo thing that we were working on, and then we'll head over to the community page and start listening to some of your tracks. Itiana, what's up? Artist from Nigeria, finished new song, send it over to you. Yeah, Itiana, if you're just joining, look at the link that I just put in the comments. That's the Music Producer School community. Make sure you go and join the page. I'll approve everybody when I'm done with the stream here. I'm going to go over there and stream just from the community page right after I'm done here today with this lesson. And you can post your songs right there, and I'm going to listen to them live with you guys and give you some feedback while we're watching. What's up, Gentle James? Thanks for dropping the comment. Hey, also, if you guys wouldn't mind, go ahead and hit the share button on this stream. The more people we get in here, the more fun it'll be. So let's get back into this track that we were working on. So basically what I was showing you guys over the past couple lessons was how when you're writing chord progressions or when you're writing drum patterns, or even if you have audio in the form of like a synth or a loop or whatever it may be, you don't always have to, I was explaining when I started producing, I would always look at the song as like the whole thing at once. And what happens is it's very easy to get overwhelmed because you've got all these different instruments, all these different tracks. What's easier to do is to break it down, track by track. And then once you even get into a single track, like I was showing with programming the drums, for example, don't get caught up in like this whole big production all at the same time. It's going to be a lot easier if you focus on, okay, let's do the kick. And then even when you're doing the kick, and again, if you missed this part, go back to the previous two streams because I went into this in detail. But I was basically showing how you can start off with, like this kick pattern, for example. It's a very basic kick pattern, but then you break it down into measures. So this is measure 1, and then we copied it over to measure 2, but you can see that we added some stuff in measure 2. And then we did the same thing, copy to measure 3, but we start moving things around measure by measure. And then once you get a cool little 4-bar loop, which we did at the end here, we had a nice little kind of fill at the end. Once you add that in, now we can say, okay, let's go ahead and put in, and like I said before, your snare is typically going to be on your 2 and your 4, so that's pretty standard. And then we went on to, the next section of the song where we started adding in some hi-hat parts. And I was showing you how you can start off with a basic part, and then we moved over here where we started, changing it up a little bit with the hi-hat and kind of getting this little more intricate pattern going. I'll play this real quick for you. And then the interesting thing about doing stuff this way is it's going to be very rare that you knock out a super cool track. I mean, you can knock out a basic idea or a basic track in one session. But the best thing, in my opinion, is to work on multiple tracks at once. And when I say multiple tracks, I mean like multiple songs or multiple different beats. Because after about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, your head's going to be so stuck in this one probably hi-hat pattern, or if you're mixing, you just get so fixated on that one particular thing. It's best to go on to something else and almost kind of clear your ears so that you refresh them with something new. And then when you come back, you're going to immediately start hearing probably the next day when you come back to the track. So we worked on this track 2 days ago. I'm coming back and I'm already hearing stuff that I could do that would make it more interesting. So for example, with the hi-hat pattern here, instead of just doing these 8th and 16th things, I'm noticing that, okay, we could probably dig in here a little bit. I'm going to put it on my triplet grid, and I don't want to do all of them. I want to just do a triplet thing like this. Let's check that out and see if it'll add a little interest. That was cool, but let's go in even a little further now. And then what I'm going to do also here is I'm going to add in a little bit of velocity so that we'll have more of like a sweep in kind of a feel. Let's check this out now. So like same thing right here. Add in a nice little sweep right there. Those are usually pretty interesting and cool. Little velocity. And then right here, I want to keep on. I'm going to take it off my triplet grid, and I want to kind of maintain what we're doing with the kick right here. So I'm going to take these out, and I want to just follow the kick exactly. So you can see here my hi-hats are following my kick, and then we did this little fill at the end. So let's listen to that now, just right at the end right there. And then I want to put in one more kick at the end right there to go all the way through to the bar, to the next bar. And then I think I like taking out all of these right here. So let's listen to this section. And again, this is arrangement. And like I said, if you can come back to it on a new day, a new set of ears, you're going to hear stuff that you'll be able to do immediately where you can start making your track more interesting. And it's not just these basic patterns like we started off with. So like also right here, because I got that nice reverb, I want to get rid of these hi-hats on the snare so that it's just going to be a nice pop, and it's going to kind of let the bar breathe a little bit. So watch right here where we have this nice little moment where it's going to just kind of breathe. So I like that. I'm digging that. So now right here, again, we're kind of going back to a basic pattern. So again, part of arrangement, what can we change that is going to make the listener's ear kind of perk up and be like, okay, that's something new. It's going to keep them interested. So definitely every four bars, you want to try and keep some stuff interesting and moving that's going to happen. So that you can keep the listener's ear interested. And this is all the stuff that goes into arrangement. Now, again, I showed you in the last lesson how we can kind of mute out whole sections of a track. Or right now, we're going back actually into just our drum track. So again, always try to focus on just one thing at a time and make that thing interesting. And then once we go through and do that, then we'll back up and we'll listen to the track as a whole. And if we want to start, muting some certain parts out again like that, we can. So right now I'm thinking, okay, we did something cool with the hi-hat pattern. So let's go ahead and copy that over to pattern 2 here. So now we've got that cool hi-hat pattern in there. And let me make sure I got rid of all these old hi-hats. So all right, we got our pattern in there again. But now let's try and we'll keep the, you don't want to change too many things all the time. So we just changed up the hi-hat pattern. So in the first part of the verse here, it's a very basic thing. We're going to let the vocals, when we do vocals on this, we're going to kind of let them take over because we're introducing the vocalist. We want the listener to be paying attention to the vocalist. But then after the first 4 bars of vocals, it's like, okay, we know what the vocalist sounds like. We're kind of getting his flow. And that's another thing about producing is if you have an artist coming in who is laying down vocals, and this could be for rap, for rock, for country, for electronic, EDM, pop, whatever it is, you need to be there to kind of guide them because a lot of artists and a lot of especially younger artists and younger producers, people will get into this rhythm and they'll only stick with that one rhythm. And it's your job as a producer to kind of be there and say, okay, we did this same, and it's actually called cadence. you know, the way that they're doing it. So if they're doing a very straightforward and fast kind of cadence, so let's say they start out in the verse like this. So you see how it's just the same thing over and over again. So what I would do as the producer, especially if they were in the studio writing, I would say, look, you're going fast on those 4 bars. Let's switch it up now, switch up the cadence, and let's try and maybe do something a little slower. So I'll just play you out of the first couple, the last 2 bars of the first section and show you how I would have them switch it up. So, so kind of like a longer drawn out thing. That's kind of how I coach artists when they're in the studio and give them an example, and that usually will trigger some lyrics for them if they're writing, or it'll give them some new ideas about how to change the flow, whether they're singing, whether they're rapping, it doesn't matter. You're kind of, again, I'm always thinking about problem solving for this stuff, and a lot of the times the artist, like I said, you get stuck in that one mode. So if you can kind of open that little door for their mind of like, hey, you don't have to do everything fast, you can switch it up slow. And then if they're going slow, say, hey, you could switch it up and do something fast here. So this is all kind of stuff that I think of as arrangement. So anyway, let's get back into our hi-hat pattern here. So the hi-hat pattern, we changed a little bit. It's cool. We've got our little kind of our little rolls here that we put in. But now I'm thinking, okay, what can we change that is a little bit of something, but not anything crazy, but just a little something for the listener's ear that's going to be cool. So what I'm thinking is we can maybe switch up or add something to this this snare pattern here. So let's try and add in something like this, and we're going to bring our velocity down and do another one there. Let's bring that over and try it here. All right, I'm not liking that first one. Okay, I'm digging that. So I'm going to copy that over. And then here's a quick little trick for you guys when you're doing some drum programming and you're trying to do like a little bit of a flam thing like that it's called, where it's kind of giving a little nuance to a snare drum, but because we're triggering the same sample, even though I'm using a different velocity, the listener kind of hears it and they're not going to say this out loud, but in their ear they're thinking, he's just triggering the same sample. That's not a real drum. So let me show you a little trick that you can do for that. We're going to take this same pattern, but what we're going to do is I'm going to go over to my drum rack, and again, you could do this in FL or whatever it is. So I'm using this sample called Snare Trap Noise. So that's it right there. Now, I'm not using the snare lo-fi blip, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my original snare that we're using over to the blip. And I'm going to call this snare accent, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the filter that comes built in the Ableton drums. And again, if you needed to just use an EQ or something, you could on this. And I'm going to filter a lot of the highs out of this. So now, because I used velocity, I can see exactly which ones we used for these accents. and I'm going to highlight just those. And again, this is stuff you can do in FL, Logic, whatever. But you see how over here now I have snare accent. So I'm just going to take all those accents and move them down. And now take a listen to it, because that snare, it's the same sample, but it's filtered out. And then another thing we could even do is we could pitch it. Let's maybe pitch it down like two semitones, and let's see what that sounds like now. All right, we got too much filter going, so we need to bring it back a little bit. All right, a little bit more filter. So now we've got a nice little bit of movement, and I want to kind of do something like that. Boost those highs just in the mid-range, high mid-range a little bit. Cool, and I'm not really digging the pitch thing so much, so let's go back to our original pitch. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe pitch it down just one. So that's a way, like I said, with arrangement. Hey, what's up, Adenaji? How you doing? Thanks for saying hi. Glad you're with us. And once again, if you are just joining us, my name's Matt from Music Producer School. Glad to be with y'all today. It is Saturday, where I am at about 12:30 p.m. Central Time, and it's a great day to be alive. Glad y'all are all with me. So again, I'm just thinking about, okay, the hi-hat pattern was cool because we changed it, but now we're in this next section, so we can kind of start introducing this new snare feel. Okay, so that's the third section. So we got something new. So let's copy up over here our pattern. And what we're going to do now is maybe on this section, we want to do something like, let me see if I can get some of my A's going here. A, A, A. Yeah, something like that. So I'm going to throw a little A into our... Let's do this crash. Let's do it here. So now on this one, and again, I'm thinking mentally right now, those counting methods I showed you. I'm thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and. So I've got 1, and then on the and right here, I want to put in my A. 1 and 2 and. And I'm going to bring the velocity down on this one a little bit. And then we'll just copy that over. And then on the end right here, because we have this fill, I'm just going to take those out. And then the A's, I have a feeling I'll probably have to adjust the volume a little bit. So let's see what this sounds like now. Yeah, so y'all see how just adding, again, I'm just kind of going in 4-bar sections, and I'm just always thinking, okay, what's something new that I can put here to keep the listener interested? Because you've always got to keep the song evolving. So let me go and touch on one last thing here before I go and I wrap this one up, because I wanted to show you, like, again, that's kind of the micro arrangement stuff, where if we're just working on drums, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Each bar is its own little deal, and then once we put those together, we have a section, and then once we have a section or a pattern, then I'm gonna go to kind of more of the whole song type of a mentality, and I'm looking at, okay, well, what can I do here, you know, to kind of keep a little interest. So like right here, for example, in the thinking more along the lines of the whole song, we have this pattern right here, but let's see, we've got 4, 8, 12, and then this is our 16 right here, okay? So maybe what we want to do at this second section is we want to, let me consolidate this, and then let's maybe put in our A's on this 4-bar section, and let's get rid of the hi-hats here. And again, I'm just thinking, what can we do to change it up? So right here we come out of, this would be essentially a verse right here, 16 bars. And then we come into this right here, which would maybe, let's say, be the beginning of the chorus, let's say. So let me add a locator, and this will be the chorus, or I also call it the hook. Okay? So we come into here with our little drum fill. And then right here, I'm kind of liking the idea of getting rid of these extra kicks. And then this time when we go into the next part of this hook, to kind of like, so the first part we're just kind of introducing it. The vocalist would be doing his thing on it. And we'll keep these A's rolling, but we're going to get rid of some of those kicks so it's a nice little break. And then right here, I would want something a little more active to come in on the second part. So right here, same thing, thinking arrangement. We've done this hi-hat pattern already. So now let's maybe let the vocalist kind of take over, and we'll just do more of a straight hi-hat pattern, but we'll leave our little roll at the end right there. And then let's maybe just go up to about this so we can keep our roll in the end here. So just like that, you're able to start adding interest, but you don't get overwhelmed with looking at the whole song all the time, and you just throw in random samples around. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you will get lucky and you'll throw some cool stuff in there, but I would always, again, the main point I wanted to make this week was to break down your productions so that you're having success with each individual part, because when you put small interesting parts together, they're going to become big interesting sections, and you just keep building the song up that way, as opposed to just kind of constantly, oh, let me throw this sample here and see, let me throw this sample on this track and see. It's just a lot easier to build it with this type of approach if you think about it in this type of way, with just, like I said, kind of always thinking break it down into smaller parts. So let me show you guys one more thing before we finish it up today. So like, for example, with this hook, when you have a lot of movement going into the hook, it sometimes can take away power. Or let's actually talk about this part, because this hook, it's kind of where the vocalist, like I said, would take over on the first 4 bars, and then on the second part is where it really gets moving. What's up, Manuel? Thanks for saying hello. Thanks for stopping by. So right here, for example, this is again where arrangement type stuff starts to come into play. So we have this synth happening right here, right? And we don't really have anything happening with it with the filter. It's just a straight synth. So what I like to do before I go into a section that's really moving is I like to kind of, again, take away some things so that when we go back into this next section and stuff is really moving, it's going to sound that much more impactful. So what can we do right here to maybe take this away? So I'm thinking, if I can remember the name of the plugin, what is the name of that thing? It's been a minute since I've used it. So let me see if I can remember. Here it is, Effectrix. So this is a cool little plugin that does what's called a tape stop effect, okay? So I'm going to run this, and we're just going to solo our synth. And remember, the goal here is I want to kind of get rid of something on the end of this right here. So that way we can come into something nice and strong and big here. So in other words, you can only add so much on here to make it sound big. So to make it sound even bigger, the best thing to do sometimes is to take away some stuff at the end right here. So let's go ahead and actually, I'm going to freeze my synth at the bottom right here. And while that's working, I'm going to remind you guys really quickly while I'm bouncing that track down. If you're just joining us, be sure to go and join the Music Producer School community. I put the link in the comments on Facebook a little while ago. They should be right there. Go ahead and click join on there, because right after I get off of here, I'm gonna go live stream from the Producer School community only, and you have to be a member in order to watch it. And I'm gonna let you guys submit your tracks, and I'm gonna listen to your tracks while I'm on there. And I'm going to kind of give some feedback on your stuff. We can talk about your tracks a little bit and see what you're having problems with, or maybe what you're doing right. And I'm just give you a little feedback and advice there. So make sure you go click on that Music Producer School community link and click join, and I'll approve you right after I get off of here. So, okay, going back to our song, I'm going to freeze and flatten this track so that way I have audio. And that way I'm going to be able to do this operation on both my my main kind of melody synth, and then this is what I'll just call our pad down here. So right here, I'm a solo, and we're just going to listen to that and watch this plugin. So this is actually, I can see it's rolling by one measure at a time. So what I want to do is just take it one measure at a time right here then. So what I want to do is what's called the vinyl effect. And I want that to last a little bit longer. Over here with my time, I can make it last for a quarter note. So that's cool. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to duplicate. This is another little trick for you guys. So instead of just freezing this whole track and printing or flattening the track or bouncing it to audio, whichever your program calls it, what you can do often that's a little bit easier is I'm going to duplicate this track with the effect on it. And now, because I only want to mess with this version of the audio, I'm going to delete all this other stuff because I don't need it. And then remember, I was showing y'all in the last lesson how if you're messing with your arrangement, what you can do a lot of times is instead of doing a file save as and having to flip back and forth between projects, just copy your whole project and then paste it over later on in your timeline and just put a little marker up here that calls it like version 2 or version 3 or whatever you want. And then that way you can mess with the arrangement over here, but then always kind of think about this as your main actual song. And if you do something over here you like, you could just copy it and move it over to here in the original song that you actually want to mess with for the real song. So that's a cool little trick, because that way all your plugins stay the same, all your volumes stay the same, and it's just a little easier than flipping back and forth between different versions of the song. So I can actually get rid of all of this because I'm not using it. So all I need to worry about is this guy right here. Let's solo him, make sure we're still good. So right there, I had changed the plug-in time on the original track, not on this one. So let's go back here, make sure we get our deal on a quarter note. All right, so we're gonna now, I'm gonna freeze that. And now I'm going to flatten it. To me, it's just turn it into audio and all the plugins are gone. So it just printed just like that. And then I'm just going to take that piece of audio and I'm going to just put it on that track there. So I can get rid of my Effectrix here. But what I do also want to do, the reason I printed this pad to audio is because I know that I want to put this Effectrix plugin on this one as well. So I'm going to put Effectrix there as well, and let's solo our pad. And we've got the same, because I just moved the plugin from here to here, so we've got the same time as a quarter note that we wanted. So that's cool. So same thing as I did before. I'm going to duplicate this track. I'm going to get rid of all the stuff that I don't need, and that'll make the audio bounce a little bit quicker. Get rid of this stuff over here because we don't need it. And now I'm going to go ahead and flatten, freeze it first. Official, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Alright, so we froze our track. I'm going to flatten this and turn it into audio. So now the audio is printed. And then I'm just going to take this and put it on our original track here. And that's it. I can get rid of this extra track here. Get rid of this extra track here. So now let's listen to what this sounds like. And then right here, because we're doing kind of this little stop maneuver that I just did with Effectrix, I want to probably take out this A and this A. And let's take out this kick right here. Alright, so let's see this section now. Let's unsolo. Alright, I've still got my Effectrix plugin on there. I don't need that. Let's start it again. So that's pretty cool. So you can hear the difference now that we do this little break off right here. We've got a nice little fill, and then on the second part of our chorus, the hi-hat starts picking up. We've got our nice little snare drum thing that we did in there with that filtered snare. So all of this movement is happening at once. So you can imagine when the listener is listening, you know, the chorus kind of drops, vocalist, yeah, giving the hook, pick it up, we got our nice little hi-hat rolling there. So yeah, that one's starting to work really nicely. So again, the point I wanted to make to kind of finish off our arrangement discussion this week was you don't always have to necessarily add things. A lot of times, like we just did here, in order to make this part of the chorus sound bigger, we actually took some stuff away in the section right before it. And that way, kind of that juxtaposition against each of the parts, it makes one sound smaller, therefore the next part sounds that much bigger. So, alright you guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to go ahead and probably in about 5 minutes, I'm going to go jump over to the Music Producer School community. I'm only going to be live streaming from there. So make sure if you haven't joined it yet, click the link in the Facebook comments. Come join me over there. If you have a track or a song or a beat or whatever it may be, I'm just asking that you either have it on like a SoundCloud link or a YouTube, something that you can post the link right to the page, and I'll be able to listen to it right there on the page. I'm going to be broadcasting from there, listening live. We can be chatting on there. I'll give you some of my thoughts on the track. I'll try and do maybe like up to like 5 tracks today. I think I have time to do about 5 of them today. So y'all come join me over there. I'm going to wrap this one up right here. So make sure you join, and I'll see y'all over in the Music Producer School community in about 5 minutes. All right, see y'all over there.